Okay, yay! Welcome back, Double Teamed fam. How are we doing? Today we welcome Molly Tullis. She is a romance author that I found on Instagram and manifested to come on the pod. Hi.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. This is like 2 years in the making.
I know.
Literally, because
I've been following you for quite some time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I remember the first time you had reached out, I was so excited, but I'm obviously not based in LA. So we're like, okay, next time you're in LA, we'll figure it out. And then 2 years later,
We made it happen.
Hey, guess what? I'm gonna be in LA.
I'm stoked. And I'm glad that you remember.
I did. Oh, of course. Of course.
Okay, so we do like to start with a little icebreaker. This is brought to you by our favorite lube personal fave. You already know how much we were about it. Anyways, so tell us your personal fave, smut that you've written, smut scene, specific scene. I want
Specific scene?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I have it.
I knew it.
For a second, I was going to be like, I don't know if I could think of this. And I was like, no, just kidding. Yes, I can. I write under my name, Molly Tullis. I also write under a pen name, Farrell Dawson, which is not a super secret at this point. But I did write a scene once that healed my religious trauma where I had two characters fucking in an abandoned church in the rain. And it was one of those, someone had just saved somebody's life. The emotions are high. It's pouring rain. And I was like, they're fucking in a church.
The roof is leaking.
Yes. Like the cobblestones are wet, probably in practice I would hate it, but it was great. It was very, very healing for me to write as somebody who was a pastor's daughter.
Now, that prompts me to wonder, so what is your favorite, your own favorite out of the bedroom, public sex scene? Have you had sex in public before?
I have.
In a public place. Not
obviously
you're not, in front of a crowd, but
in front of a crowd. I sold tickets once. Which, hey, that's good and valid. No, I have before. It's not my favorite because, and I will give you a couple reasons. One, I'm loud.
Oh, okay.
I am loud, and there's no changing that. I have learned, so I don't
own it.
Yeah, I've owned this at this point. I've gotten no complaints. So I don't love public where there's that we can't get caught. That doesn't work for me because I already have anxiety. So adding that, for some people it's sexy. It's the tension. It's the we're gonna get caught. But I'm very type A and I'm very anxious. So I'm like, no, but that's a problem. That kills my libido. I will say I do have plans. I'm seeing someone right now. And I'm seeing a couple people, but they're a diesel mechanic.
Oh.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if I should say this. I think I can. It's fine.
We can always cut it out.
We can always cut it. Yeah. We'll chat, and then I can decide later if this is bad PR or something.
Yeah, you're good.
But we're planning on hooking up at the train depot, at his office.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah. Because he was at work a couple weeks ago and was texting me, and he was like, "I kind of really want to fuck you in the cab of a diesel truck." I was like, "All right." Sure.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Yes. I am for it.
You're so stoked.
That sounds so fun.
So we haven't done it yet, but it was really funny because he clearly was thinking about it because he was like, no, I know where your legs are gonna go. I know where my legs are gonna go. And I was like, oh, aren't you supposed to be working?
Yeah, no, he's planned this.
He's planned it. Yeah.
But we love a man that plans.
We love a plan.
We love a man with
a
plan. Planner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
If it happens, please tell us.
I will. I'll come back. Yeah.
Write in a submission.
I'll write in a submission.
Or come back and we'll do a whole episode.
I'll let you know.
I want to know that. I've never even thought to do that.
Neither had I.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, huh. Okay.
That's actually a good segue into a question that I had.
So glad that segues into something. Actually, that's impeccable.
Well, it just kind of reminds me of, because I've read a lot of, when I was younger, for example, read a lot of books and, sometimes it would feature spicy scenes in all kinds of places. And when you're a kid, and you can't fuck in your own home, you get creative.
Right. You have to get creative. I was a pastor's daughter. We got creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what spurred the
for sure. A healthy dose of religious trauma and repressed sexuality. Yes, 1,000%.
Okay, but what book did you read that kind of opened up your world?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because mine is Twilight, which is disappointing.
Oh, see, I feel like I'm right there with you though, because I have a very vivid memory. I was always an avid reader as a kid.
Yeah.
I was always an avid reader. And I remember, because I would hang out in the library after school, because again, I was obviously very cool and popular in middle school. I would hang out in the library. And I remember the day our librarian came up to me and was like, oh, hey, this is like what all the kids are reading these days. This is like the hot new thing. And it was Twilight.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. And then I like binged through like I think only like one or two were out at that point.
Yeah, okay.
So I was going to like the Barnes and Noble Breaking Dawn midnight release parties.
Oh,
And like,
love,
yeah.
Yes.
So I think that got me into like, oh, books can have kissing in them.
Yeah.
But ironically, my parents loved that series because Edward wanted to wait until they were married, until they had sex.
Okay.
Oh my God. You're kidding.
I wish I was kidding. So and my parents were like, oh yeah, no, you can read this. This is great. Look at those good old fashioned values.
To be fair, the person that introduced us to that series was my aunt.
Yeah.
And
go.
and they were all raised Catholic.
Yeah.
Like they went to Catholic
Stephanie,
school and
I think she's
everything.
Mormon.
Yeah.
Stephanie Marley,
Yeah.
Mormon. Yeah, she has some
Something like
weird
that.
ideologies, but yeah. yeah. So I think it was Twilight, because then I was like, oh, books can have kissing in them? This is great.
And then I remember for me it was Twilight, but then my mother gave me a bunch of her old did you ever read Sidney Sheldon?
I don't think I did.
Oh, they were so good.
I read I got in trouble for reading. Do you remember the Click books? They had like the plaid covers.
Yes.
Love those.
Loved those.
Those were great.
Those were so good. And I remember I borrowed one from my best friend at the time. I was like 14 or 15. Like, I think it was pretty age appropriate. Like, they were YA books.
Yeah.
But I remember like I took it home and my mom like found it in my backpack and like just took it.
Were these the ones with like the in
Yes.
and out list?
Yes.
Oh, I love those
Yes.
series so
But
much.
they like involved people dating and
Yes.
kissing or whatever. And
Yeah.
like still age appropriate. It wasn't insanely graphic, but I remember
No,
like
no.
my mom like confiscated it because she thought it was inappropriate. And then my best friend was furious because she was like, that was my book. And I was like,
It was, but I mean,
I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. It's gone.
I feel like the best
were
friend should've
a
gone to your
little
mom.
like degenerate.
They
you know?
were. They
For-
were.
for
Like,
our-
for the
you know,
plot.
If you
know.
lived in the South and you were reading those, that was spicy.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like
yeah. Oh, it was spicy for the time. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in Northwest Indiana. I was a
Oh,
pastor's
yeah.
daughter. So, you know, it was spicy, but it was very funny because then my best friend was like, that was my book. And I was like,
Yeah.
bummer, dude. I don't know what to
Wait,
tell
I want to
you.
know what was your sex education?
Limited.
Yeah.
So we had
But like, what was the message that you got around sex? If
abstinence.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were hardcore, like the purity culture,
Yeah.
abstinence, whatever.
Yeah.
The sex ed that we got was Valparaiso Community Schools sex education,
Mhm.
which was fine, but it still was very much like abstinence.
Yeah.
And then my parents had us all wear purity rings.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Jonas Brothers weren't the only people who had to put up with that
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah.
It sounds like you were part of the crew.
Oh yeah, we were part of the gang. It was us and the Jonas Brothers. Yeah, so it was like heavy on the purity culture and the abstinence and the waiting until marriage and the yeah. Fun times.
I was just saying. I mean, we didn't do the whole purity ring
Yeah.
thing, but we got the abstinence. It was pretty much
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if you're gonna have sex, you're a whore. Okay.
Yes,
No,
that-
like,
yeah. Like,
okay,
full stop.
great. Thanks.
Full stop. Yeah. Like this isn't a fun thing people do. It's a thing that like degenerates do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
actually trying to remember the first book that I ever read that actually had sex in it, like more graphic sex, and it's not coming to mind. But does anything come to
Mine
mind for you?
was, this is so funny because it's like barely graphic, but it was like just enough.
Yeah.
It was The Other Boleyn Girl.
Oh, I
Yes,
never
yes,
read
yes,
that,
yes.
but yes.
Yes. Because I remember
They made a movie out of it.
They made a movie out of it, and I had the book with the movie cover, which was like Natalie Portman, I think, and
Yep,
Scarlett
yep.
Johansson.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that flew under the radar because my mom was like, "Oh, that's a
Historical,
Boleyn,
yeah."
historical, yeah." And I'm like licking the pages for like the tiniest bit of like sex information, like the tiniest like sexy scenes in it. It was like, but it technically, because you know he was a bit of a. The
Did you-
sex and the tutor thing was a whole thing. So
Did you read the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants?
I did.
Oh, I love
Those
those.
were fun. Those were
Yeah.
really fun. I also read when I was really little. This was like elementary school. There was one series. I must have been like 8 or 9, but it was a series called Warrior Cats. Oh yeah.
Does ring
It
a
was
bell?
like a 30-book children's series about a tribe of wild cats.
I was a Pony Pals girl.
Oh, see, this was my equivalent. This was my equivalent. You're kind of one or the other, I feel.
yeah.
Okay, but this sounds dope.
It was great. Oh, I ate those up
Yeah.
as a child.
Yeah.
I want to say my first series with
like
sex.
graphic.
Yeah, with graphic sex was either there was one series that I read. It was about 3 girls, and like each chunk of the series followed a different girl. But I read the first one, and they all had like powers, and they were like, I don't know, saving the world, whatever. And
Sounds
I
like
think
almost every book I read last year.
yes,
Which I say parentheses complimentary.
yeah.
Like to be clear.
Yes. And I think that had sex, but then I definitely remember when I read, it was like also my first reverse harem.
Oh yeah.
What is that series called?
The Burberry Prep.
No. The other one.
Oh, the I know which one you're talking about.
4 Psychos.
Yes, that one.
Did you
Oh
read that
yeah,
one?
yeah. I haven't read it. I'm aware of it.
You're
I'm
aware of it?
aware of it. So I'm not
I
very
think you
hard.
need to give it a shot.
Okay.
Now, I will say, because I used to, I would be like an avid Goodreads reviewer
Okay.
back in my early mid 20s.
And they were good reviews. They were
And-
funny. Yeah.
The way I reviewed these books, it was a strong start. And I have
Okay.
a bookshelf named Strong Start,
Strong
Shitty
Start.
Finish.
You
So
hate that.
but with this series, like it started out so good. And it was like the first time that I was like reading like this much about sex. And I was like, oh wow. And then by the time you get to the 4th or 5th, I can't remember. I was like, was the author high when she wrote this? Because it makes no sense anymore. I'm not high, I'm sober. So, but yeah, it was. But that awakened me for
Yeah.
sure.
I can't remember which exact one it was because I was reading a lot of like literary fiction, and then I picked something up because I loved fantasy as a kid, and then in my 20s I was reading a lot of literary fiction, and then I was like, I'm gonna go back to fantasy, and then got into like romantic fantasy, and I was like, I'm sorry, we have like fantasy with kissing now and dicks. This is great. This
What?
is great.
Descriptive dicks. Too.
Right, exactly. And like they're always perfect. Like, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite like subgenre?
Ooh. Oh, that's such a good one. I go through phases.
Okay.
Because I'm
That's
a
fair.
mood reader. So I'm very ADHD. So I'm a mood reader. I will go through a phase where I will binge like 10 Why Choose or reverse harems in a row. And then I'll go on like a mafia romance one.
Oh,
and then it's
yes.
like 15 like mafia romances. And then I'll read like 5 shifter wolf ones and then like
Love.
10 fae ones.
I was gonna say for
Like
me,
I
it's the
cycle
fae.
through.
It's
I
the
love
fae.
a fae. I mean,
It's
it
a
just
high
always
fantasy
hits.
fae moment.
Love
for
a high
me.
fantasy fae.
Yep.
Yeah, obsessed. So it really just depends on my mood. The answer to that question is all of them,
Yeah.
depending on my mood.
Wait, I want to know, when did you transition from reader to author?
Yes. So that was late 2021.
Nice.
So I started my Bookstagram mainly because I was reading a ton. I was reading a ton, and I was like posting reviews on my like personal Instagram, and like none of my friends at the time read, which is fine. But I was like, I want to discuss this with people. So I was like, okay, I'll start like my own little page for it. And I didn't have like lofty ambitions for it or whatever. I was like, I just want to have a page where I'm only talking about like books.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. And then it, kind of took off. And I knew that I always wanted to be a writer. Like I was a kid who was like writing stories in composition notebooks and like obsessed. Like I'd always been a writer in the fact that I was like, one day I'm going to write a book. And like when I was a kid, I was always writing constantly. And then I, through my Bookstagram, discovered like indie publishing and was reading a ton of indie authors, and then realized I was like, I have enough of a platform where like I could probably like market this pretty well and like make this work, instead of querying and kind of going the more traditional route. Even though I'm now working on a project that I'm going to query and probably go the traditional route, but at the time. So it was 2021, I released my first book, and then it was all uphill or downhill from there based on whatever your point of view may be.
I love that.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was was there a specific book that kind of inspired you?
No, I don't know if there's a specific book that inspired me just because, again, like I grew up always writing. So like I was always writing. I was the kid who was like writing, you know, fantasy novels in a composition.
Did you have a story of yours that you developed more into a book? Like something that you like a seed that you sprouted?
No. All of that early stuff, thank goodness it's, you know, those were the ramblings of a child. But so I don't think there was anything specific. I will say I was very one of my very best friends, Amy Quiverlanen, who's also an amazing fantasy, spicy, paranormal author, like incredible stuff. Her and I got very, very close, and I was very, very inspired by her. Because she's one of my closest friends in the world, like just an incredible author. And also she gave me a lot of the like, write the thing. I'm annoyed with you now, lovingly, just go write the thing. So I wouldn't say there was one book. I think she was very instrumental in, if I can do this, you can, like, you should do this, you can do this. So yeah, and so I highly recommend her stuff too. Her stuff is beautiful. Chef's kiss.
I'm finishing a series right now, then I got to finish another series, but then I'm like, I need to find...
Story of my life.
I know. I'm like, but then I want to open myself up to some new books.
Yeah. She has a completed trilogy that is like probably my favorite fantasy romance series of all time.
What's
like,
it called?
So good.
Wait, hold on. I want to write this down.
I know, write this down. Yeah. So the trilogy is Magicians of Venice.
Oh.
First book is called The Immortal City. I talk about it constantly.
Why does that sound familiar? Yeah.
People have accused me of like being sponsored. I'm like, no, like I was a fan of it before she became my friend, and then I conned her into becoming my friend, and now it's still like one of my favorites.
Some people with Field get so creative with their profiles, which I love. Like, you know, I remember, or even just like, you know, when our friends send us a screenshot of someone's profile, like people will go all out.
Oh yeah.
They'll write everything that they like.
No, but I think that's a beauty of that space. Everyone's willing to just like paragraphs, and I mean paragraphs.
No, absolutely.
Bullet lists.
No, exactly. It's a whole novel.
You know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah, it is transparent as fuck.
Yeah.
Which I think makes the app really strong for really open communication. Because I think all the vanilla dating apps just don't get it right with that. So
I know they use those stupid prompts, and I'm like, what's that actually going to tell me?
yeah, no, exactly.
Half the
I
time-
don't know what two truths and a lie from Paul are. Okay. And Field does have a new little constellation feature where you get to link profiles with others in your social circle. So then your new connections can see who else you're connected to.
Love that.
Guys, if you want to download Field, try it out, give it a go. You know, if maybe you're on the apps, go to Google Play or the Apple Store and download Field. That's F-E-E-L-D. F-E-E-L-D.
You have like such a like enthusiasm when you talk about so many of these books, and I can tell that they've like really, you know, even if they're like serious or not, in a lot of ways, like, you know, they've made you feel something. I love that. And one of my favorite questions to always ask anyone that creates anything is, when people read your stuff, what do you hope to make them feel?
I hope to make them feel, period.
Yeah.
Full stop. I hope to make them feel. I hope
love
to
that.
Yeah, I hope to make them feel, because what I try to do specifically because a lot of my stuff is myth and fantasy.
Love that.
So I'm dealing with Hecate, for example, like goddess of witchcraft. I'm dealing with like goddesses of certain things, you know. So I'm trying to craft female characters that I feel speak to in some way the experience of being a woman.
That's beautiful.
In some way. And if it pisses you off, valid. If it makes you happy, valid. You know, like if it's upsetting, valid. Hopefully a little horny, like also valid. But honestly, like if I can at the end of the day sit down and said, you know, the world's on fire, if I was able to create something that made you escape for a little while and you felt anything at all, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So yeah,
No,
my
it
answer
is.
to that is
Absolutely.
full stop. If I got you to feel anything at all, amazing. I'm good with that.
I mean, that's honestly like so much of why I've read over the years.
Yeah.
Like I think about all the books that like have just put me into like, you know, sobbing, like full on crying fits because of whatever happened to the characters or whatnot. And like, and I love that it makes me feel, and like you get so invested into it, and you know, and they're like, even if it is, you know, smutty, disgusting, like romance fantasy or whatever that I'm reading, like I can't tell you how many times I've been in the middle of a book and like there's one line or one perspective or something that I'm just like, oh man, and it like makes me like related to something in my life, and it like whether it gives me like validation or just you know, it makes a connection that kind of gives me a new perspective, whatever it is. Like I think that's the beauty of reading, to like really kind of like pull that out of the reader. I was
reading a Why Choose the other day that like for all intents and purposes is like just smut from page 1 to the end, right? Which we love. But there was also like a line in it when one of the characters was like, it doesn't matter. Everybody's doing everything on their own timeline. And I was like, that's so true. And it just like hit me in that moment. And I'm like, this is not, you know,
this is why
but there
I read
was a moment
this.
in it. And I was like, oh, that's great. So like, even like it all has the opportunity to like hit you in the right spot.
What is your favorite book that you've written?
Ooh.
Like of your own work.
Of my own work.
Yes.
It's like asking me to choose a favorite child, which I am and am prepared to do.
I was gonna say, I know there's an answer.
Oh yeah, there's an answer. They're not actually children, so I don't have to worry about their therapy bills by saying this. I think, you know what, I am gonna split it up though. So under my catalog for Molly Tullis,
okay,
my favorite is always going to be Lost to Witchcraft, which is the second one.
I'm gonna write this down.
That is Hecate, goddess of witchcraft. And it is the most black cat golden retriever. I put a universe of himbo energy into that man. And I made the meanest woman that I could. Yes. And then I stuck him on a boat, and there's hijinks at sea. And then I stuck him on a boat together in the middle of the Mediterranean and made them fuck out their problems. That one's probably my favorite because I hurt my own feelings because I put so much of my personality into that portrayal of Hecate. So that one is always gonna be my favorite. And I just wrote out my dream man with the male in that one. I just was not interested in anything else other than like what would I want, and then I drew him up. For Feral Dawson, which is a little bit more paranormal romance. So that's the one where there's fays and werewolves and vampiric lady fae. So like succubus fae, which is very fun.
Love.
That series all takes place in Scotland. And there's Werewolf's Fate, which is a fae lady werewolf shifter. And again, very similar, black cat and golden retriever, like very peak himbo. She's a bounty hunter and he's the bounty.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so a good trope.
It's great. Yeah. So those two, I think, Werewolf's Fate and Lost to Witchcraft are probably my favorite, and they're the ones that all writing is self-insert. Anybody who tells you else is lying a little bit. But those are the two where I was like, I hope I talk about it, but I'm like, if anybody asks me about this, like that's my shit right on the page. Like those are my insecurities, like down to the mommy issues, like right on the page. Yeah.
What do you think is worse, daddy or mommy issues?
Well, I have both. So they've just gotten together and are having a gangbang. So
you know, I was actually telling that to a friend the other day. I'm like, I don't think it's just daddy issues or like just mommy issues. I think we all have parent issues.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Caretaker issues.
Look, Freud was off in some things, but I think he broken clock at least twice a day. He hit some stuff on the head. Yeah. No, I don't know, because I have both. So they're all hanging out together, smoking cigarettes and drinking Fireball.
Have you ever written a set of parents? And I don't know if any of your books include parents that are like the dream parents you would want to have.
Oh, no. No, wait, actually I have. I forgot for a second. I was like, no, I haven't. And then I was like, oh, yes, I have. I did. In one of the Feral Dawson books, there's it's elves, is that one, elves and witches. And I have a set of royal parents that are just the most loving, supportive. And the female character in that one has mommy issues. Mm-hmm. So then ends up with this guy who has these amazing parents that are like really nice to her. And she's like, what am I supposed to do with this information?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Another self-insert for you. So yeah, I have done that once.
Well, I remember, so C.M. Stunnick, the Burberry Prep series, one of the boys in that series has a set of parents that are just like the most amazing ones. Remember the rock star guy, his parents?
Yeah, they're a little out there.
Yeah, they're a little out there, but they like gave her a whole makeover. It was great. And I remember reading that scene and I was like, wow. And I remember thinking, I'm like, that's the kind of parent I would want to be. Yeah. And in, you know, a story that I once wrote. I wrote the mother to be like how I would have wanted my mother to be. And then it also, like, I remember when I finished writing, I was like, oh, that's also the kind of mother I want to be to, like, children, if I ever have them. Hopefully I do. And so it was incredibly healing because I got to, like, kind of bring to life the parental experience that I wish I'd had.
I think it's so healing because I've done both. I've written the parental experience that I wish I had, and then I have written the parental experience that I did have, and then wrote in support that I didn't necessarily have while going through that.
I love that.
I did a Hades and Persephone novella.
Oh, love those two.
Yeah, I have tattoos for both of them, and I played up the Demeter as like the antagonist in that one. Like I played that up so hard. But yeah, because I've done both, and both of them are incredibly healing to do. Yeah, highly recommend.
And I honestly, I mean, for anyone that like is out there, even if you're not a writer, you know, like you're never going to publish anything, you're never going to, you know, put any work out there. That is totally fine. But like, I think there is so much to be said for like taking a moment to like write out, even if it is just like a simple story or just like something, you know, within a journal, whatever, like, you know, what you wish something had looked like in your life, because I feel like that can be incredibly healing.
Oh, yeah.
Especially like after a breakup, you know, the ending that you wished you could have had, like write it all out. Like, I wish we had done this. And
write
this
it out,
this,
burn it,
this.
do whatever.
Exactly, yeah. Or like, I wish the conversation with my mom had gone like this and this and this. And sometimes like that is like really all you need to kind of just like give your body the ability to like experience it and then move on.
Yeah, 1000%. Yeah. I've done that before for stuff that is not getting published.
Yeah.
It just was like, oh, I had this fight with this parent. I'm going to write out the things that they couldn't understand. Like, hey, this made me feel like this. Da, 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 da. But then just like having a record of it and then just like doing it away with it it's very healing.
Same with like at the end of a romantic relationship, a breakup. So much like of what you wish, because I think people get really caught up in that. Yeah. And like what hadn't happened, what you wish had happened, that like we kind of get stuck. And then that's kind of where we live after the breakup until we like are able to fully process it. And I think, you know, writing, like from taking it from your mind onto a piece of paper or computer, whatever, however you want to do it, I think is just kind of can be that final loop. Yeah. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's
I love
healing.
that.
Yeah. Do you journal?
I do.
Okay. So you write and you journal.
Yeah, I have a lot of notebooks. I have a lot of notebooks. I have like 5 notebooks at any given time because I have like a planner. So I have like a day, like, you know, I have a planner, like a day one. I have a 1 line a day journal, but instead of 1 line a day, I write 1 line that I read every day from something.
Yeah.
So I use it to write 1 line of something I read every single day, which is great.
That's a great
idea. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. I took that from, his name's Austin Kleon. He's an artist who has a really cool, I think he wrote a book called like How to Steal Like an Artist. And he had a bunch of like cool creative like concepts. Yeah. So I stole that straight from him. So I can't take credit. But I got the 1 line a day journal, but instead I just do a line of something I read every day.
I love that.
I have a log book where I jot continuously throughout the day, like, okay, took dog out, worked, did this, which is just purely for my ADHD. To help me remember, like, did I do that one thing? And then I will like find myself checking said log book. Yeah.
Mind blowing. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I am 3 raccoons in a trench coat held together by a lot of journals and fountain pens.
Love that.
And then I have a junk journal. I'm a big junk journaler. I'm a very sentimental person. Yes. So I do like traditional journaling, but then also I'm the type of person who will like save the receipt from sushi and then like tape it in my little journal and be like, I went to sushi day with so-and-so and here's a little receipt and here's like maybe the matchbook or the whatever. So then I have all these like collages in my journal.
That is so cute.
I'm very sentimental. I will save like the wrappers of the most random shit and then like save it and like put it in there. So I have like, and then I have a journal that I use only when I'm traveling. I feel like when you're in a different mindset when you're traveling. Yeah. So that has its own thing as well.
I didn't thought of it that way.
At any given time, I've got
you're writing.
Notebooks on notebooks on
notebooks.
But
that's a great process because you have it compartmentalized.
Yeah.
I feel inspired to do this more.
There you go.
Because I mean, I have like my journaling journal, which is like where I put like my thoughts and emotions. And then I have my like to-do journal, which is like, you know, shit I got to do and like lists or like notes from like a meeting or whatever, like all of that. And that's fine. But then the rest of it goes on my notes app. And not that that's a bad thing, but like there's no organization in there.
No, my notes app is chaotic.
It's the same. So I gotta, sometimes I like that idea because then you can kind of compartmentalize it and have more of a physical copy.
The best thing in my notes app is my high thoughts.
I
I have a running note in my note app of the things that things I've said while high, or like things I've thought while high, and I will look back at it while sober, and it's amazing.
That sounds great.
I want you to read one right now. But
Okay, absolutely. Somebody, will you hand me my phone? We'll go through some of them. They're great.
I want to know.
Oh yeah, they're hilarious, especially when you consider some of this is shrooms and some of this is just weed. But let's find out. Mushroom thoughts.
I have found I'm having great sex on, is it sativa weed? I think.
Oh, sativa.
Yes.
I'm an indica girly because I take indica every night to sleep.
Oh, nice.
And I was with an individual that I'm seeing, and they were like, "If you want to smoke or something, that's fine." And I was like, "If I smoke, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Like your plans for the evening are wrecked." And he was like, "Oh, okay, just kidding." And I was like, "That's what I thought." Okay, so for context, my dog's name is JV. So he makes an appearance in this. First thought, if I ever write a memoir, I'm calling it Our Daddy Who Art in Heaven.
Love.
I'm sorry. That was good.
Thank you. If I'm actually in an episode of The Truman Show right now, the producers are doing a really shitty job.
Wait, what show is that?
The Truman Show?
No.
Have you seen the movie?
Yes.
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 With
No.
Jim Carrey, where he's actually in a television show.
It's old, isn't it?
It's like 90s.
Yeah, old.
Yeah.
Old.
It's
Well,
been
Nicole,
Nicole,
we're
we're
Okay,
from the
old.
90s.
It's
Okay,
not,
I know
I'm
that
not-
old.
Okay, hold on.
30
It's
years.
It's not a fucking silent film. Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
It is a very good movie where Jim Carrey was adopted by a corporation, and his whole life is a reality show, and he doesn't know.
Oh.
And it's like the story of him realizing and breaking out. So anyway, so basically I was like, if I'm actually on a television show right now, the producers are doing a shitty job.
Oh.
I just realized Gene Wilder died, and I'm really upset about that.
Oh.
He died like 10 years ago.
Oh.
He was like one of the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
What is the best song ever, and why is it Gasolina?
Okay, wait. I think
A classic.
I would argue Blinding Lights by The Weeknd.
Okay, I'll take that. I won't argue
Not
with
really
you.
in the same
That's- I mean,
category,
that's
but
up
okay.
there. Slightly different.
That's up there.
I'm going to start responding to problems the Oompa Loompa way, which is to break out into song and dance, which honestly is such theater kid energy.
Were you a theater kid?
I was a theater kid.
I was good. Yeah.
Yeah,
My-
can you tell from everything about me?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Emo girls love Jack Black and Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
Also true.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then this is probably why isn't everyone on shrooms all the time? Which was clearly one that I wrote while I was on shrooms.
Microdosing shrooms, I think if everyone in the world did this, we would all elevate to the next
We'd be
level.
good. We'd be so
Like,
good.
I remember I saw a tweet once that was so funny, and it was like, anyone who has ever done shrooms realizes that everyone should do shrooms.
Yes.
And then they also realize why we're fucked because not everyone does
Not
shrooms.
everyone does shrooms.
No.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. And then this one makes no sense. This had to be alcohol. They say women live longer if they're single, parentheses, no man. So if my depression is winning, I date a man, shorter life. Me at best mental health means no man.
Do you want to date a man?
Unfortunately, I date all of the types. But that's how one of my very good guy friends is like a surrogate older brother to me, and like all the time he's in a loving marriage to one of my other very good friends, and all the time he'll message me and he'll be like, okay, so what's going on? Who are you dating? What's the scene? What's going on?
Yeah, what's the
going
tea?
on?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, oh, I've got a date with this guy or whatever, and he'll message me back and he's like, okay, but women though, and non-binary folks, and I'm like, yes, I know, but they scare me. Like
Oh.
women are pretty. Like men are easy. women are pretty.
Men are easy. Yes.
And you know, and every time
But
he's like,
dating women is
"Why?"
hard.
But dating women is hard
and intimidating.
and so intimidating.
yeah.
So he like playfully gives me crap all the time, and he's like, he's also a straight man, and he's like, you understand the power of boobs. Why are you not capitalizing on this? And I was like, look, if I could be a lesbian, I would. But sexuality is not a choice, and I'm not a lesbian. I'm just bi.
Are you okay? So you're bisexual.
I'm bi-pan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then would you say like for romantic like preferences, you want a man? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, because I was gonna say, I've discovered
knows?
I am more sexually bisexual,
Mhm.
but romantically
Sure.
heterosexual. But I also know that that can be related to like dating patterns and such.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like if you have only been primarily heterosexual your whole life, and then
Right.
you wake up into your bisexuality,
Right.
like then you have no patterns dating women.
Also, that's the thing is, I came out of the closet very late in life. Like I'm 31. I came out when I was like 27. Because
Same.
Yeah. Like pretty late.
Same.
In life.
So, I mean, you kind of given us a little bit of a picture into your organization, but I want to know, especially as someone that writes myself, like what does your process look like for like diving into like more of the spicy or the fantasy? Like how do you enter those worlds to write into them for yourself?
Absolutely. So for world building, I haven't done anything that's like high fantasy. So I haven't done anything where I'm like, I'm inventing a new world.
Yeah.
Like I've done stuff with Greek gods. They're in Greece, obviously, So I haven't, I haven't gone too off book there. So with the world building for me, it's all about the five senses. So like, how does the world that these characters are in affect them?
Yeah.
Because those are the five senses are how you experience the world around you. So like, what are they seeing at any given point? What are they smelling? Like, what does that make them feel? Things like that. So that's kind of how I've approached world building. Sex scenes are really not sexy to write. And that's the thing that is very funny. Because people are like, especially like I'll talk to dudes, especially who are like, oh, and you write romance books. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, this isn't going the way you think it's going. It's not like you're not fucking Sex in the City, sitting in lingerie, like typing at a thing with a glass of champagne. Like, I'm sitting there with a sketch pad trying to figure out if I've defied human anatomy.
Yeah.
Right?
No, exactly.
And you got to keep track of where
You
the
gotta
body
keep
parts
track
are.
of parts.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there the whole time like a fucking architect, and I'm like, where's his left hand? I'm like, what's going on? Where did I last leave her foot?
And,
like,
then you write it out, and then you're like, does that make sense?
I'm like, does that make sense? And I'm like, would that be enjoyable? So the way I approach sex scenes is very clinically, and like you have to orchestrate it quite literally. But a lot of the emotion in it is then, of course, like inspired by the characters. So that obviously going into the sex scenes, like then you kind of know like, what is the vibe? Is somebody more dominant than the other partner? Is that something that they enjoy? Is that something that they don't enjoy? Is that something that they're going to have to work through? Like, what are the emotional things? The other thing I also just keep a pair of sex dice on my desk.
Love that.
Yeah, because I'm like, and then I roll, and sometimes I'll just roll the dice and I'm like, all right, what are we doing? Licking toe? Great, fine. And then cowgirl, got it. So sometimes to make sure that I'm not rinsing and repeating the same ones, my best tool for that is I keep a pair of novelty sex dice on my desk.
I think that's
genius. Yeah.
It works.
That's genius.
And it makes a big sure that I'm not writing, because I think by the third or fourth book, I was like, are they all doing the same thing? And I was like talking to my friend and she's like, no, you're fine. I'm like, I feel like they're all doing the same thing. So then I got sex dice and now it just makes me feel better.
Well, I mean, with sex, there's...
There's
know,
only
it's
so
so
much
much
you
you
can
There's
do.
a certain amount of ingredients, like certain things
Yeah.
are gonna happen every time.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's my go-to now. So I have a pair of
Missionary is
the
underrated.
1,000%. I will typically hold off on that until the relationship in the books is like coming to a climax.
Aw.
Because, or
yeah.
maybe I'm gonna say that, and then someone's gonna read one of my books and be like, "That is not what this bitch did." There's a lot of them to keep track of, but a lot of times I will start not with missionary because it is underrated and it is emotional. If you were like directly staring at someone, like that's emotional. So I typically don't. I try to not start there unless it calls for it. But
So like doggy.
yeah.
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 I actually love the reasoning behind that.
Oh.
That makes me want to pay more attention to the way that authors like build in the sex, whether they start with like the less connective and building
And
into
then building
the,
up to the more connective. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
usually by the time I'm reading a sex scene, I'm just happy it's happening.
You're just
So,
happy
like,
that
I'm
yeah,
not
you're
paying
just happy
attention.
people-
Yeah.
You're just happy people are banging.
Yeah, I'm not analyzing if they
Yeah.
have eye contact or not. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's actually I love that.
So I'll pay some of them more than others. Some of them is just hot, so they're doing it. You
Wait,
know,
I'm
doing
curious.
it.
Have you ever had like, anything that, certain partners or people have done that like have inspired really good scenes?
No.
Really? Oh.
No. You're
Okay.
putting too much faith in men.
Oh
No.
my God.
Which is also very funny because I'll be like talking with individuals that I'm like seeing or hooking up with or whatever. And like, without a doubt, I will have a guy at some point be like, anything I bet that inspired you, or like, da 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 da. And I just want to look at him and be like, buddy,
No.
Yeah.
buddy,
I've done this a million times.
buddy, I've read this a million times. I've written this a million times. We've done this a handful of times. Like, it is, the confidence of a man is astounding. And like every single, somebody will be like, I bet that inspired you to do. I'm like, it really, okay, sure, buddy.
You know what? Let him think that.
That's nice.
Let him
Like,
think
oh,
that.
yeah. I'm always like, 1000%. You nailed it. That was actually the best sex I've ever had. That right now. And next time we have sex, you guessed it, that was the best sex I ever had. No, I'll put like, I'll put like my stuff into it, like
Yeah.
giving head. Like I'll put that into
Like
that.
your techniques.
Yeah. Like my
Okay.
techniques are how I like to do it. So
Yeah.
I've done that, but I don't think I've actually had any partner like, and then inspire me to be like, oh.
I'm actually now trying to think if I have, but I
Yeah.
will say this: we had two friends that parties and that we went to all the time.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about? They always had a bounce house at them,
Yes.
and so
It's a
and
fun addition to
I
a
know
sex party.
exactly. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've never been to we've been to hundreds.
Yeah.
Feels like of
Yeah.
other sex parties, and like this is the only couple that ever did a bounce house. And so like one time when I was writing out something, in about a sex party, I'm like, I'm gonna throw a bounce house in there.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, who else would think to put a
Who
bounce
else would
house
have to think of
besides the
that?
two of them? So
love that.
yeah, I love and that inspiration. That was like one of my favorite things to write out.
That's fun.
Because it was also kind of like it just reminded me of like funny things that you experience in a bounce house when having
yeah.
sex.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the
that.
inspiration's always I don't know. To me,
It
that's my
comes from
favorite.
one of the things. It comes from weird places.
Yeah,
Like you can have. I've had very unsexy things. Fine. I'm like that actually would be really good if it, da 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 or whatever. So like it comes from weird places, but it does always make me laugh when typically heterosexual men find out I'm a romance author. Their immediate go-to is like, I bet I inspired. No, you didn't.
No,
Yeah.
you should give them the prompt. Do something inspiring.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know, buddy.
100%.
Here you
When
go.
they start,
Balls in your
like,
court.
yeah, be like, you know what? That,
Wow me.
Balls
Make
in
that-
your court.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I do always, I typically, I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but I feel like I've had multiple, like more than one guy be like, am I top 3? Am I
Oh,
like, have you ever-
Really?
Yes.
No.
I've had more than one guy be like very curious about their ranking in my life.
I can't say
I think that's your Scorpio energy drawing that in. I really
agree,
do.
yeah. We
That-
all-
Maybe
yeah.
it is. Maybe it is. I've had multiple, and I'm just always like,
No,
keep
I
guessing.
think I've had
Keep
maybe-
guessing.
I think one or two, but not so many that I've taken notice.
I've taken notice.
I don't think I've
And
ever
I
been
give
asked
them all
that.
the same response, which is, I don't know. Keep trying. Figure it out.
Maybe.
How do you think you did?
Suddenly
How
an
would you
interview.
rate
You
your
just spit. Yeah, it's an interview. You just spin it back on them. You're like, I don't know, buddy. How do you think you did?
How would you rate your
How
experience?
would you rate your experience?
See, I don't.
Or your performance,
Your
performance, yeah,
performance.
your
Yeah.
performance.
How would you rate your performance?
I don't think I've ever been asked that.
I've been asked that multiple times.
You know,
I
I'm
think
trying to
maybe
think.
once or twice. Yeah, not
If
often.
I had been asked, it would have been in my very early 20s, which I probably
Sure.
would have said like number 1. You know, but
that was a hopeless.
Oh yeah. Well,
romantic
that's when it's fun, especially again with like heterosexual men. It's always like everyone's like, yeah, no, that was the best I've ever had. That just now with you, 100%. I promise.
But I also think it's because like men, they have that natural competitiveness.
Yo,
Because
yeah.
like I would never
Yeah.
think to like
No, I would
even
never
think
think
that.
that.
Yeah.
I would never think that.
It's
And when
also
I've
like
hooked up
everything
with
is so
women,
nuanced.
I've never
yeah.
thought that.
Yeah.
But it's just a very funny.
It is, it's
Yeah.
a Hall of Fame. It's not, the
Yeah.
Olympics out here.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we're not giving
It's
away
the
gold.
Hall of Fame,
yeah.
not the Olympics.
wait, that reminds me.
It's true. It's
That's
not gold,
true.
silver, and bronze.
No, that's true. That's so true.
You either make it in or you don't.
That's so true. 1,000%.
I have been asked, is this going to make it on the pod?
Oh, that,
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, ew. Just because you said that? No.
No.
yeah.
Nope.
No.
That's been
I will say I got asked because I was talking to some friends and I told people I was super excited and I was going to come and be on y'all's pod and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got the am I going to be mentioned? I was like, I don't know.
Ick.
We'll see.
Were they mentioned?
They have to guess. They all get to listen to this and wonder who I was talking about.
I think
love
that's
that.
perfect. Keep them
Just keep 'em
guessing.
guessing.
Yeah,
Just keep 'em guessing.
That's the best way to do it with men, actually. But thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, this could have gone on for hours. But unfortunately, people don't have the attention span for anything longer than an hour.
Okay.
But
Oh, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, I can't wait to read some of your work.
Thank you.
It is going to be on my TBR.
Thank you.
But yes, for anyone that wants to find your work, where can they find it?
Yeah, so honestly, it's very simple. Everything's linked on all of my socials, so you can find me at the Bibliophile Blonde on everything. That's my handle pretty much across the board. You could also just like type my name into Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google, and my catalog pops up. So
Love that.
easy smeezy.
And we'll link it in the episode description
Yeah,
as well for
there you
anyone
go.
that wants to find it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm going to start with the one that you said was your favorite.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with the
the
Hecate
boat.
one.
The
Yes.
Hecate one. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
That's Lost to Witchcraft.
I've
Yeah,
always
she's my
loved
girl.
her as a goddess.
Yeah, I'm here in LA for a book conference.
Nice.
So I've got a bunch of art for her and stuff and all that good stuff. So yeah,
Beautiful.
I'll show you. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Thank you, Ganda.
No,
this was
this
the,
was so
the
wonderful.
best
I'm so
conversation.
glad you
came here.
I know.
Yes.
This was amazing. This
If
was
you're ever
wonderful.
back, well,
We'll
we're
do it
moving,
again.
Yes.
but let
We'll
us
do it
know.
again for sure.
Yes. And DT fam, y'all know where to find us at Double Team Podcast at Community. DoubleTeamPodcast.com has all relevant links.
Wear condoms. Wear condoms.
Wear condoms. Get tested.
Yes.
Get tested. Wear condoms.
Yes, we preach that.
So good.
Yay.